Donald Trump factor could want American host the 2026 World Cup. In a week where Mr. Trump has been at odds with Canadian leader Justin Trudeau over trade tariffs, the nations, along with southern neighbor Mexico, will have to present a joint front to try and win over the FIFA Congress at the vote in Moscow tomorrow morning, Australian time. The three countries have formed a bid known as United 2026, which promises dozens of world-class stadiums, reliable transport hubs and plenty of tourist attractions and hotels, not to mention an expected $11 billion profit for FIFA. Up against the North Americans is Morocco, which announced its candidacy with a two-sentence statement on the due date last August, and expects to spend $21 billion to build or renovate all 14 stadiums and upgrade tourist and medical facilities. Both bids passed a recent FIFA inspection, but Morocco scored 2.7 out of 5 and was rated high risk in 3 areas, while the US-led bid earned 4 out of 5 and earned much more favorable reviews. While the decision seems like a no-brainer, a new voting format in which 207 of the 211 member nations host nominees are excluded means geopolitics, FIFA's inherent self-interest and popularity will come into play. What has Trump got to do with football? Mr. Trump has publicly thrown his support behind the US-led bid, while also issuing veiled threats against countries which might go against it. Even though governments should have nothing to do with the voting, the US has put together a strong bid with Canada. Tweeted in April, "It would be a shame if countries that we always support were to lobby against the US bid. Why should we be supporting these countries when they don't support us, including at the United Nations?" That tweet earned a rebuke from FIFA, who highlighted the organization's ethics rules, which contain an explicit warning against activities by bidding country governments which may adversely affect the integrity of the bidding process and create an undue influence on the bidding process. But Mr. Trump was at it again a few days later, publicly catching Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari off guard at a press conference in the Rose Garden, asking for the support of African nations and saying the U.S. government would be watching very closely. Despite the collapse of the relationship between Mr. Trump and Mr. Trudeau, and the U.S. president's commitment to build a wall on the border with Mexico, the leaders of the nations have been united in trying to bring the World Cup back to North America for the first time in 24 years. Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto said sport is one thing that brings the countries together. Mr. Trump's domestic policies could also come into play, and form part of the medium-risk designation given by FIFA to the United 2026 bid, even though the U.S. president should be out of office. Iran was the second nation to qualify for Russia 2018, behind Brazil, but finds itself on the list of 6 countries on Mr. Trump's travel ban list. Iraq, winners of the Asian Cup in 2007, and Syria, who Australia defeated at the last stage in the Asian qualifying rounds, are also on that list. The Trump administration has responded to these concerns by confirming to FIFA that all eligible athletes, officials and fans from all countries around the world would be able to enter the United States without discrimination. You also can't forget the impact of January's shithole countries comment, which was in reference to countries in Africa and Central America. Mr. Trump's lack of popularity around the world has seen U.S. Soccer President Carlos Cordero come out and ask football federations to forget about politics when making their choice. The question of who will host in 2026 has at times become mixed with geopolitics, Cordero added.